Friends, today's guest is someone who's lived in our living room for years and then bravely stepped into a completely new chapter of her life. Brooke Baldwin is a celebrated journalist, best-selling author, and one of the most authentic voices to ever calm us through breaking news. You know her from CNN Newsroom, where for over a decade she brought clarity, humanity, and heart to moment after moment, from presidential inaugurations and space shuttle launches to the hardest stories of our times. Then she wrote Huddle, a powerful book about how women gain power, purpose, and healing when we gather, support each other, and show up as a collective force. This book absolutely changed the trajectory of my life, my career, my mothering, and how I show up for other women, y'all. It's a must read.
Wow.
Now, Brooke didn't just leave one life behind. She walked into purpose. And she's hosted a Netflix series, which again digs into the human psyche in unexpected ways. She continues to share her truth through unwavering courage on her Substack. Again, a must read. I am so grateful to be here with Brooke Baldwin. And Brooke, I'm so happy you're here on Tell Me More. So let's go.
Nicole, can I steal that entire bio and use it now forever?
You can
Forever.
Absolutely. I can tell you it's the truth. Like, for me, this is such a big moment because, as an Atlanta girl, you're an Atlanta girl, ATL, and watching you from 3 to 4. I mean, you were my kids are off the bus. We'll have this in the background. Auntie Brooke's going to catch us up on what happened today. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yes. You were one of honestly, the safe voices that I felt through so much that was happening, especially your major coverage during the 2020 racial reconciliation moment. I mean, you've always been honest and forthright and balanced, challenging, where I think a lot of people question journalists, about, are you willing to challenge people? And we'll get into that more later, but I'm grateful that you exist.
Oh my
and
gosh, you're going to make me
today.
cry.
It's
just out of the gate.
The world is better. So I'm grateful. So
Wow,
I have
bless
to
you.
ask you,
Yeah.
In this next chapter, post CNN, post all the things, it's pretty recent. I mean, that was what, 2022, 2021?
21 when I left, yeah.
I want to know if there is one truth in that your lived experience that you have learned, reflected on, that you could zap into everyone's brain right now. What would that be?
This is going to sound crazy to people, and especially the people who tuned in every day to watch me for all those years, is, obviously I spoke for a living. I had a microphone to amplify my voice. And yet the person I didn't speak up enough for was me. And we don't have to go into my childhood on this podcast, but the point is I learned really through writing Huddle and sitting in rooms with just extraordinary women and extraordinary ordinary women, I learned how to speak up for myself. And so I would say to people listening, have courage. And that's so easy to say. I was just listening to a podcast with Brene Brown. She's got this new book out on leadership, and she's just like, the through line for leaders is courage. And it's not even just in your work life and having courageous conversations, but it's also in, one's personal life. I had a really, really courageous, tear-filled conversation with my fiance over the weekend.
And fiance, I love it. Yes, congratulations.
That's the first time I've said that.
Yes.
And just digging deep, finding the courage in telling your truth.
Wow. I mean, it's not a new line. We hear that all the time. It's this bucket of things that as women, we need to be able to utilize in this world, and that we're constantly having society tell us, oh no, like your job is in the kitchen, your job is this, but it's always a muffling of our voice. And this is something you've been unpacking in your Substack, Unraveling.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been all about your voice. So can you tell me more about that? We watch you, like you said, have a mic and have one of the sort of loudest and far-reaching and millions of homes, voices. What do you mean you felt like you weren't using your voice?
Oh, gosh, excellent question.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't using my voice I would show up every day and I would speak for others. I would ask the tough questions. I would call out the BS, and I would help shine a light in places that were dark. And I think I did that pretty well. And thank you. I think I was calm and I cared. I have a huge achy, breaky, beating heart. All of that said, I think I did not speak up enough for myself when people were misbehaving behind the scenes at work. I look back and there were specific moments years ago where I should have gone to the boss and said, "This is what's happening, and it's not okay with me." I mean, I've had other executives who were friends of mine, and they were like, "How did you not march into your boss's office and demand change?" And even like, just as a Southern girl, I'm like,
Oh,
demand change.
I'm like, my boss?
Oh,
Oh,
like,
bless your heart. That's not what we do.
I'm like,
You should be grateful. Yeah.
exactly what I was gonna say. I'm
Right.
just so grateful. I mean, at one point I had my boss,
That's
when I
right.
was asking for one change in my contract, he was
Hmm.
like, "Be grateful, be
Hmm.
grateful." I mean, how many times have we heard a man say that? And
Hmm.
I love men, but and I think in how it permeated who I was and how I showed up. When I would get on TV and I'd be under the lights in my dress and my fancy shoes, I would certainly I was bringing myself to the deal, but also in those last few years, in addition to how it affected me personally, just I wasn't down with the direction in which we covered that first Trump administration and the myopic nature. It felt personal.
Hmm.
And a lot of it was personal and understandably so, but I just like felt totally out of integrity with like my insides didn't match my outsides.
Oh, wow. Well, so tell me more about that because I think that we're in a time where um, journalism as a craft isn't even seen as a craft, partly because of what's beautiful, the democratization of microphones and platforms, right?
Yes,
Which is a
everywhere.
good thing,
Everyone's a
right?
journalist these
Everyone can
days.
be a journalist in some way, shape, or form in
Yeah.
sharing a voice or truth, which I think really is at the heart of a lot of what you're saying, which is like, that's a very good thing
Yeah.
that we're able to hear more voices, see more perspectives. I mean, you have literally turned your mic over to voices unheard
Yes.
all the time, whether it's within the queer community, whether it's in the Black community, any marginalized group, you've always been able to say, look, I have privilege. Like, here, use my
Yes.
mic, please. You've done that really well.
Thank you.
But that also, we are at a time now where that craft is being criticized more than ever before. And so I want to ask a little bit about that. You were seeing things. You were on the other side of it. You did a Vanity Fair,
Yeah.
article where you talked about there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to the point where the people you spoke about didn't even want to comment. They just said, "Okay,
That's right.
girl, have
That's
at it."
right.
Right?
That's right.
And like a journalist, you said, "Do you have anything to say?
That's right.
Am I wrong? Here's the article." And they said, "Nah, have at it." So I want to ask you, you know, should we trust the media? Should we trust? Because I trusted you enough to let you talk to my kids, and I still do. So what were you seeing, that was keeping you from using your voice? Is that what we should be concerned about?
I think a couple of things.
Mhm.
First, let me just start high level,
Yeah.
not my experience, but what I'm seeing right now between what's happening with his administration and settlements that you're seeing, whether it's because of a George Stephanopoulos interview over at
Mhm.
ABC or what happened recently with
Or
60
deals with
Minutes.
CBS. Yeah.
CBS. And by the way, like CBS, talk about like OG capital
Huge.
J journalism. If I would go anywhere, I would want to go to CBS. And, I feel for those journalists over there who are, many of whom I know are the real deal and very trustworthy. But then you have, certain entities that are now leading and they have power and they have resources and they have connections to certain people. And they obviously like the wind blows one way. And so, in anywhere, as you know, in corporate America, it's all about like personal interests and
Self-preservation is a huge part of it.
self-preservation, and there's gonna be maybe some sort of power imbalance. I think it's really easy for folks, listen, we live in Los Angeles. I was just in New
Mhm.
York for the last 10 years with more progressive folks. I'm from Georgia.
Yeah.
My family roots are lean very differently.
Right.
And I think that it's easy to criticize someplace like Fox News, right? People like roll their eyes and, Roger Ailes is no longer with us, but, you think about how
Fox
they,
wasn't always like that either, though. This is not me defending Fox per se,
yes,
because you guys know I try to let you think for yourselves, but
yes,
I grew up and Fox wasn't always like that. I
yeah,
live in DC. I
right,
lived in
right,
DC. So this turn towards we have a stance, you were
yes,
on the inside of it all. Like,
yes.
what is this?
So I didn't experience for years having a stance. I was
Mhm.
never, and I was never told in my entire career, like I was never told you have to say certain things. But those last few years for me under the first Trump administration, let me see how I want to say this. Like there would be moments where we'd be in the middle of there some sort of Washington centric breaking news and the teleprompter would go blank as it would, and I would know I would suddenly have like six let's say experts talking heads to talk to, and there would be some copy that would suddenly, like, appear in the teleprompter that would likely have been from a boss or a producer who'd been in direct communication with the boss. When I mean boss, I mean president of CNN, who
Wow.
had his hands in every piece of our coverage, which made him, I don't know how he did it, quite
Is
honestly. It
that
was,
normal? Is that the
uh,
from
I
that high level,
I
like,
only
throughout
know that
networks?
experience,
Right.
and all I know is just tentacles and reach and influence everywhere, and he was, I'm talking about Jeff Zucker. He was a heavy hitter, a
Mhm.
genius at
Legend.
making
Mhm.
news entertaining, but to me, it overstepped. And I was like one of the dayside CNN anchors. So when you think of like dayside news versus evening, evening is more opinion, dayside is more neutral or should be, and I always was like proud of standing in the center, or I tried to. But there would be moments like during breaking news when the copy would appear in the teleprompter. I don't really talk about this very often, but copy would appear in the teleprompter and it would be a certain way to say the thing to come out of the breaking news to get me to the talking heads. And I didn't like it. I don't know any other way to say
Yeah,
it,
it's
but
unusual for you in particular because what I loved about your segment, which if you guys don't know, was the, like, prime afternoon, 3 to
yes,
4.
I was like
So
the closer
yeah,
of the
closer. So
daytime.
you had all the stuff to comment on. It was just my favorite recap moment, and I loved it because you really were, I don't wanna say neutral because we always knew, like, Brooke's kinda like us, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, she's a regular woman, she's just kinda trying to live her life, you know
Mm,
what I mean?
yeah.
But she's gonna give you this spin on, not spin on it, but this take that was like, "Hey, here's what happened," and you can hear from my tone, this is kinda sad,
Yes.
or you can hear from my tone, "Hey, pay attention, there's gonna be more about this, like,
Yes.
it's not over yet." So you did that really well.
Thank you.
How do you feel like that was influenced by having, messaging put in there? I mean, was it to that level where it was like, "Say this tone sad,"
No, no, never,
No?
never,
Okay.
never a tone, but it would be words or a take. Like something would happen within the White House, let's say in the morning, and I knew going into the day that there were certain day driving stories that we would need to cover that would come from the top down. Like we want to focus on these three things. And sometimes it wasn't as much for me to do, but for sure, some of our panelists would obviously, they're brought on to have opinions. But sometimes I felt the farther in, it got a bit blurry. And what's crazy is sometimes I'd come into work and I would like have a fire in my belly over something that Trump said. Or I remember one time, I think, there was like a kid behind him on the podium and he was speaking like he speaks. And I was so bothered that this is what our children are hearing. Let's use that as an example. And I would come in and I would say to my producer, I want to like go off on this one thing. I felt like I was on the side of right. Obviously, I want to believe that about myself. But, some days they'd be like, whoa, Brooke, you're taking it too far. Or some days they would want me to be way more argumentative. I say they, meaning my producers.
Mhm.
My producers are getting that from
Yeah.
above. And, a lot of times when we would have these various guests on, they would want the guests to fight. And I would only have so much time in a segment. And instead of really like leaning into listening,
Mhm.
they would get in my ear when I would allow them to speak too long. A producer would get in my ear and say, jump in, jump in, jump in. And maybe it was because it was not interesting because of what they were saying, because it wasn't, I don't know, they weren't being pugilistic and they wanted more of that. But that was not my jam.
It's also not your jam, like, although I will say there's an evolution from the outside, right? One of the reasons I liked watching you was even though you would bring people to the table that may be divisive at best, or have varying
Yeah.
perspectives, you did let people speak,
Yes.
which is something that, I try to do here on this platform, which is like, take the mic, tell us what's really going on,
Yes.
and it allows us to then ask questions and things of that sort. But over time, as you talk about in Unraveling, you guys, it's a Substack. I'll have the link below. You like subscribe, like it's very, very, very good. You talk about Brene Brown a lot,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, this is like Brene for the everyday girl. It's like
Oh
accessible
my
Brene. It's
God,
just
biggest compliment
no,
ever.
it feels like applicable Brene. Like I'm like I know how to take what you're saying and apply it.
Yeah.
It's very good. But
Thank you.
you talk about finding your voice, and I saw that happening.
Yes.
So there was a point
Yes.
where it felt like you were in the early stage sitting at this table needing to moderate these
Yes.
conversations, and you were moderating like,
Yes.
"Your turn, stop. Your turn, stop.
Right.
Your turn." But then it got to the point where I was seeing you do things like hey, that's disrespectful. Like, we're going to cut your mic.
Yes.
Because they were drifting into what we always say here on this show, bigotry, racism, sexism,
Yeah. Goodbye.
goodbye. Like,
Goodbye.
we're just, and everyone here, no matter where you stand politically, we know that's not a good thing. We're
That's
not going
right.
to argue or give platform to that,
That's
right?
right.
So you had a moment
I did.
in 20.
I know
I
exactly
love
where you're
that you're like,
going.
I
I
know
know
exactly what you're
exactly
about
where
to
you're
talk
going.
about, right? So, and I just say this because I want people to hear that, like, a lot of people have distrust around the media now. They feel like they're only trying to get us angry. And I want you guys to hear, like, Brooke, she's not part of the machine. I don't know if she ever was. Like, I don't even know
Mm.
how they got you in there. Okay. Once you get to read and know Brooke, you're like, you should have never let her in the room. It was going to be a problem. Okay. It was going to be a problem. So I say this because you guys need to understand Brooke is our girl, right? So
Uh,
first things first, you're sitting down and you have brought a pretty well-rounded table to the mix,
yeah.
including Clay Travis.
Yeah.
Who decided on that table? Because and what was the core
That's the
topic?
money question. What memories if memory serves, it was one of my producers, and I think he was actually booked for a different show for the weekend, and so we were gonna jump and grab him, we were gonna grab him that day along with someone else with a differing opinion, and so I didn't, to be honest. Listen, I anchored a 2-hour show every day, news broke all the time, I caught a lot of things in the afternoon. I have to trust my team, I have to trust my
Of
producers and my bookers
course.
to put people on air with me, who aren't gonna do what he did.
Or at least media trained, right? And so for those of you who aren't familiar with Clay Travis, I'm not gonna give him a lot of platform time. He is not someone
I
I
just
would
like to
have
call
here.
him the boob.
Yes, the boob. That's a great way, and you guys will understand more about that soon.
Yeah.
He's someone that I would not have on here, and just because, we talk about people who are emotionally based, who are trying to incite a reaction, and that's not what we're looking for. That's not a good use of our time or energy, right? So for some reason, he was given a big microphone,
Yeah.
and he got the privilege of sitting at your table.
Yeah.
And when you asked him a question
Yeah.
about, I think it was like his core beliefs or like what matters to him, something to that effect, a very generous question, in my opinion, because if someone were to put me on a platform, and I think everyone here, I'm hoping you guys just hear this right now. If you ever get a microphone put in front of you and the opportunity to say something to millions, like, what do you believe in? And you don't think to use that moment to put a flag in the ground and say something like, for me, it would be, my faith, my
Yes.
children,
Yes.
doing right by people, like that's what I want people to know me for forever.
Yeah.
Clay's response,
Yeah.
Brooke.
Would you like me to say it?
No, I'll say it because I
You say
want
it.
you to say what you said. Okay? Because y'all are gonna get this whole moment, okay? Clay's response when ever so generously given the opportunity to put his flag in the ground was, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing, so if Clay wants to come after me, like,
Mm,
look, I'm paraphrasing,
mm.
but you guys can Google the exact phrasing. I believe in the First Amendment and boobs. He decided
Live
in
on
that
CNN.
moment, live on CNN, in front of a woman,
Mm.
to say that. Now, I have my take on whenever a man, and I think a lot of women here right now are like, "Oh, no, I've been there." When a guy will bring up something around your body or something, it's an undermining, you know, trying to make you uncomfortable, or try to be funny, whatever.
Mm.
I'm not gonna lie, I would have frozen.
Okay. So
What did you do?
when he says this for the first time, because he repeated it,
Yes.
and by the way, listen, there are obviously people who just want to get your goat, who want to come on TV and say the thing, and all these years later, we're
Clickable
still
moments.
talking about
That's
it,
right,
and
clickable moments,
he
social
loves it. He
moments,
loves it. He
that's what they're
loves it.
looking for.
I don't, Clay, I don't think about you very often anymore, but
Does anybody think about him?
since I'm being asked,
Yeah, it's a big small dick energy, okay?
thank you,
And if he wants to prove me wrong in a defamation suit, like, whatever, like,
bring it,
whip it out.
bring it. Ah!
It is what it is.
Woo!
It is what it is.
Here's what, when we hear things in general, but especially when you're on live television, there are these, like, sometimes things happen in slow motion. So I hear him say this as the host of the show, and I'm like, there's no way.
Ain't no way.
There's no way
Mm-mm.
he just said this. So I'm pretty sure I said something like, "I'm sorry, what?"
I watched it. That's exactly what you said.
To which he doubles down
Mhm.
on the First Amendment and boobs. And at some point, and this is happening like in mere seconds, my male producer gets in my earpiece and is basically like, Brooke, he's saying, what did he tell me? Not boobs, booze, as in
Booze.
alcohol.
Yes, alcohol, booze.
He's
Mhm.
like, he's saying booze, move on. And as women, and as a Southern woman again, I'm like, should I be the good girl? Should I go with my producer? My producer is telling me to move on. But, we're also independent thinkers. We have courage. And I'm listening to that little voice inside of me, and I've got that feeling in my belly at that point. I'm like, no. And so I don't know what made me do it this way. I said, I'm sorry, I needed to hear him one more time. I was like, did you say BOOBS? And he was like, yes, boobs. And I was like, basically like, get off my show. We're going to commercial break. Goodbye. And I was like, I'm sure I was enraged that this person had the audacity to come on to disrespect the medium that is cable news and what I really believed in for all those years, being CNN, sitting in front of me, a woman in whatever year that was.
And your audience. Your
What
audience. Kids are watching.
the fuck?
What the fuck are you doing?
So that happened. I remember writing something about it for CNN.com because, a lot of people, you don't often, it's a very rare thing when
People had stuff to say about it, girl. The feedback?
Oh my Lord.
People had something to say.
And for me, the part that I didn't say out loud until I wrote my book was the part about, it was one thing to have Clay disrespect me on my own show. It was another to be second guessed by my own colleagues.
Everyone was against you in that moment.
In fact, it was also my male boss who called into the control room because everyone was watching my face and you could see the consternation, what is he saying? And so it wasn't just my male producer, it was my male boss. And everyone, I felt like, was ganging up on my own intuition. And in a matter of seconds, I'm just really proud of myself for asking him to spell the word like we're in the third grade. And once I got that confirmation and goodbye to him, I remember finishing the show, going in my office. And I remember one of our other male bosses emailed me just apologizing. Like, you handled that like a true professional with as much grace as you could muster. And I'm so sorry that we put you in that position. I'm so sorry. Whoever booked him never should have booked him. And I appreciated that. But it just was like, Nicole, it's like a reminder in life. That little voice within us, even when other people around us try to drown us out, try to tell us no, try to gaslight us, try to tell us how we're feeling, what we're thinking. No.
Yes.
Listen to it because it's always right.
Yes. And no one regrets ever listening to their intuition. They never look back and say, man, really shouldn't have listened to my gut on that one, So knowing in that moment that, for lack of better phrasing, it was the beginning of the end, I think at least on somebody's part, even if what was happening in the machine was happening in the machine, you knew that you didn't have a team behind you in the same way that you should have.
Yes.
In that moment, do you have any regrets about how you handled that situation? Would you have done anything differently?
Live on the air?
Yeah. I mean, all of it.
Gosh, do I have any regrets? I mean, I'm so glad I tossed him off. I'm glad I cut his mic. I just wish I had had folks behind the scenes who had believed me and believed my facial expressions. When you work with someone that long, and I adored these people who were with me and on my team and were supporting me
wedding.
Each and every day.
This was family.
So many of them, they were my family.
Yeah.
But to have this daylight between what I knew to be true and what they thought they heard and not entrusting me broke something in me. And it was part of my path into that sort of disrepair, that the daylight getting bigger and bigger and me not saying anything about it until I said something and it was too late. And then that was the beginning of my end and my career. But no, because I don't think I would have done anything differently. I just wish they had said, get that guy off. Get that guy, cut him off.
That's what worse is said online now. I mean, on TV, on major media platforms, a lot worse is said. But I think what's always interesting to me, and I think I hope everyone here is hearing, is that, it was very quickly seen as a professional journalistic response. There was a time where even something like that, which now is considered lightweight. I mean, honestly, that was in 2017. We're almost 10 years out from then.
Wow.
And that is considered minor. We've heard curse words coming out of the Oval Office, right now.
Right.
So it's
that
totally,
would have been,
that's nothing right now.
This was like, he said boobs.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, are like, we're being sensitive, right? So knowing that so much has changed, and that was the beginning of the end, I guess one of the questions I have for you is, do you think you would have quit? Like, do you think you would still be there now, even though choices were made outside of you?
Yeah.
Do you think you would have ever gotten to the point of using your voice to say, enough is enough and I have to go?
I already had been. With
Mm.
my agent, I had made it very clear that I wanted out. By the time COVID hit and it was like the pandemic started and what was that, April of 2020, I got really sick the first week of April. I became national news. I remember having like a come to Jesus in a lot of ways. When the whole world got really quiet, I had a lot of ahas. And one of them was, I am not being treated the way I should be treated.
Mhm.
And I love this place, and these people have been my family. I'm married to this career. Like, this is my husband. My actual husband was like husband number 2. You know what I mean?
Listen, husband number 2 is better than number 1, though. Let me just tell you from over here, girl, okay?
Uh,
What God removes, he replaces.
Amen, 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 amen. Um, I wanted to leave. I was at the point where it's like when you're in a marriage that it's run its
Mhm.
course, and somebody's sleeping on the sofa and somebody's sleeping in the bed, and you've been together for so long that you know how to do that dance of getting in and out of the home without murdering anyone, but it isn't. It's done. And so I was very interested in finding a new home. And for reasons that aren't even worth getting into, there was just a conflict of interest and not being allowed to look around at a certain time at other networks, let's say. And I ended up just like drawing the short straw and was out.
Mhm.
And it absolutely was a blessing in disguise, but I never, ever, ever in a million years would have wanted it to have happened the way it did. And I would never wish that on anyone.
Do you think that
Anyone.
using your voice was part of why you had to go?
100. Yes. I think there were people in any of these top jobs. Like
Oh, it's a dream gig.
I had a dream gig,
Mhm.
and there were plenty people very capable of doing my job, taking my job, who would have, done somersaults and whatever to take my spot. So I think, at any point, like, I knew that, my boss knew that. I knew that I brought a lot to the deal, and quite honestly, never thought that I would have been drop kicked out of this dream career. But yeah, I think I knew it had run its course.
Do you feel like part of being in any form of media platform right now, from what you're seeing from the outside? Because, I mean, you were there sort of as the change and
Yeah,
evolution in modern media was
right,
happening,
right.
but your exit in 2021, I think, is really kind of, the amplification of it. We've seen, podcasters like Joe Rogan influence elections,
Yeah,
in ways that we never thought they could before.
right.
So, that being said, now, that you exited, do you think that there even would have been a home for you,
Mm,
in the world of traditional media? Because right now, I mean, you are like our best big sister, kind of talking us through things right now
yeah.
using your own platform, and a beautiful writer, y'all. Like, that's writing really feels like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, not
Who
she had a
knew?
microphone, but here
Who
she is a
knew?
writer. Like, I just had
Yes.
no idea, so
Me
it's
neither, me
it's
neither,
nice
girl.
because you get to sit with the words, and I
Yeah,
didn't realize how much I probably was missing
yeah.
in just hearing you speak, even though you have a TED Talk that is phenomenal.
Thank you.
But, there's something to be said for being able to sit in your words the way that I know you sat in them before you released them.
Yes, yes.
But knowing that that's where you landed, which is so different from where you were and built a career around dream career,
Yeah.
where do you think you would have even been
Uh,
media-wise right now? Like, do you think you would have been like,
woulda, coulda, shoulda, like,
yeah, right? Do you even think about it,
I
or
knew I was done with the cable news hamster
did
wheel,
it feel
like,
gross? Like, when you left, you were like, "Oh, I don't even need get away from me."
yes, I
Oh,
was done. I
man.
felt completed,
That makes
and
me
that
sad.
no, 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 it's a good thing. I had this incredible run. I'm still to this day so grateful because it will forever open all these doors for me. Like, my
Mhm.
epitaph will forever read, like, it CNN anchor will be part of it, you
So
know?
I actually just pause on this. I know it's your platform.
Yeah.
I do not wish that for you. I
Mm.
pray with the many years of life you have left that
Mm.
whatever you do in the second half supersedes
Oh,
what you did in the first half. That even
100%.
though there's pride there in what you did, I want that to be the star bullet point tiny
Uh,
font. Okay.
The fine print at the
The
bottom.
fine print at the
Asterisk,
bottom, like,
footnote.
she
Oh,
did
and
this
by the
little
way, she
thing
also
on
did this
some
thing.
little network with some little peoples, and then it's like, but anyway, she changed the world, Like, we
Yes,
pray that
Nicole.
the next chapter is so much bigger. She unraveled all of us, y'all. The
Shout it for the
unraveler.
folks in the cheap seats.
That's right.
I listen, could I have had yes. Would it have amounted to where I am and where my faith is so important to me too. It's
Mhm.
like where I know I am going.
Mhm.
There is no
That's
comparison.
right.
I knew I needed the brick to the forehead to get the
You weren't gonna
out.
leave, right?
It's like how the
Yes.
thing that I think to finally answer your question, I'm gonna come back around to like would I have quit? I would have struggled. I was like so there. I was asking folks, like talk to other networks, get me a different situation, special correspondent. I'll tell longer form stories. My ego isn't big enough to need to be on for 2 hours every day. But it was honestly, Nicole, like my younger self that was like, "Wait a second. We put off having kids. We froze our
Mhm.
eggs. We dated the wrong boys. We lived in small towns. We covered the water skiing squirrels and the Chinese restaurant that burned down that was breaking news for 5 days. Like, we did all those things. We sacrificed. And you're
Yes.
gonna just leave this
Mhm.
job?
Like, you thought you were gonna be there forever.
No way." So it was honestly like answering to my younger self, I think that was the thing that kept me from just being like,
Deuces, I'm out.
deuces.
Mhm.
Deuces.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. So I know that there had to be, I mean, we're talking about the confidence that kinda came from knowing,
Mm.
right? That you were unraveling, but in the best way,
Yes.
like, because when you have a pile of thread, you can make it into something
That's
new,
right. That's
So
right.
that is a beautiful thing. There had to be fear that went
Oh my
along with
God.
it. You had to be scared. And I think, I don't know about you, like, but having gone through a divorce, which is truly and you've gone through the
Yes.
process. It's the leaving of everything that was and the hopes and fantasy.
To me, that's what it's the morning, the
It's the
future
morning of the
self that you
fantasy,
thought you were gonna
right?
have.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then saying, "Okay, I have to go into this next thing," even though I know it's better for me.
Yes.
I still like it's scary,
Yes. You
right?
gotta feel all the
It's
feels.
feel all the feels. It's scary. But also looking back, like I don't know about you, girl, but I look back at my old life and
Mm.
kind of the vestiges of old and what I see.
Yeah.
You're watching the media now. You know these people as peers,
Mm.
and I talk about that on this platform, having, celebrity friends and seeing things like the rumors and seeing them put into the same, like, what's being said in the earpiece,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
We don't. Some people don't even know they're earpieces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just thinking that y'all are just out there talking. What are you seeing? And do you look at any of that and say, do you get pangs? Like I can't drive through Atlanta and not feel uncomfortable.
Mm.
Still, like when I drive, Atlanta was, it's making me teary. Atlanta, because that was where my family, my divorce, I drive through Atlanta and my ex doesn't even live in Atlanta anymore. You know what I mean? Like, but I still go to that city and I get so sad still
Yeah.
because that was the city, that was where we
Yes.
were supposed to be.
Yes.
Can you watch TV? Can you watch the news? What do you feel?
Here's the real deal is I never watch TV. I never watch TV news, and it's not because I have a certain kind of feeling. Like I think CNN will forever be my hometown team. Like being an
Yeah.
Atlanta girl,
Yes, forever.
will forever
I
be my
only drink
hometown team.
Coca-Cola,
I
okay?
only forever drink Coca-Cola,
Ever.
root for the Braves.
That's
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
that's right.
I'm just like loyal as they come. And I know those people who I worked with who are still there are like, man, they are
Good people, solid
good
people.
people. They're good people. They're trustworthy people. They want to do good work. They want to do journalism. I've never been asked that question, and I'm thinking about it. Like, I think for me, I mean, Atlanta is where I'm born, raised. I have so much goodness in that town that I love being there. But I will say that whenever I was just at Beyonce over the summer at
Mhm.
Mercedes-Benz,
Mhm.
and I look up at that, it's not even anymore, the like OG CNN where Ted Turner lived at the top of this building, in downtown Atlanta near the Ferris wheel. And I will forever look at that. And I think the feeling, I'm just closing my eyes and like feeling into my belly. I think the feeling I have of seeing it is like, wow, that's where it all started. That's where it all started. And I mean, it all started, I was like an intern. I was in college when I was there and the bug bit in that building. And then when I'm in New York, and I see that tower in Hudson Yards, that I have a totally different emotion toward that place. That is where all of this went down that I'm telling you about. And that is where I was taken out of in a black car with two of my closest girlfriends, on that last day in April of 2021. And I have mixed emotions about seeing that place.
Yeah.
I do still.
I mean, you talk a lot about trust and you talk a lot about truth.
Yeah.
And our experiences help inform that and how we look at the world, do you still trust the world? Do you still see truth in the media? I mean, you have an intimate knowledge and you've been personally impacted.
Truth is everything to me,
Mhm.
and I think that, as I said, there are incredible, brilliant journalists whose job it is myopically to only tell the truth. I think, though, that the farther away we're getting from sort of like what was, quote unquote, the good old days of journalism, everyone's got an opinion. I mean, even the good folks, even
Yeah.
even even
Oh, for
me when I
sure.
was on the air. I remember when Charlottesville, Virginia happened, and good people on both sides. I just remember the like light flipping up and being like, "Oh my god, I don't know how I can actually be an objective journalist covering what's happening here and from here on out."
Mhm.
And I think that it's impossible for people not to bring who they are into their storytelling. And on the one hand, like you want them to do that. You want them to bring who they are. But I think like we all just need to be real about when we are watching and reading. I mean, listen, I read the paper. I get my news by reading the paper
Yes.
in my
Yes.
phone, and I read very differently than I did when I was trying to book guests on my
Mhm.
show back in the day. And sometimes I'm rebellious and like don't even look at the news in the day, and I feel like
Mm.
a wild woman. Watch out.
What you used to be responsible for,
Oh
like, I
my
can't
god.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah, and I think everyone has there is
A hot take.
everyone has a hot take in every single thing you read. You try to get the truth on what's happening in the Middle East. Good luck, like
Yeah,
depending
that's
on what
fair.
you read and who you read. So you have to just kind of read it all. You have to take the time
Mm.
to be media literate. And the last thing I'll say about this is I was interviewing a bunch of people. We call them Man on the Streets in downtown LA a couple weeks ago for this nonprofit Builders.
That's
I
awesome.
really believe in the premise of this nonprofit, which
Yes,
was
I'm part
start.
of Builders as
Oh
well.
my
Yeah, I'm a movement
gosh.
partner. Yeah,
I love
yeah, I
them.
just joined. Yeah,
Daniel Lebetsky and who he is and
brilliant.
his story and the Holocaust. Anyway, Kind Bar. And so I really ascribe to their ethos of how can we do a better job at building bridges and at least
Yes.
listening to one
Yep.
another. And when I was interviewing a bunch of these folks, random people in downtown Los Angeles, I could not believe this is my own ignorance. I couldn't believe not only like just how ill-informed, but how misinformed.
Oh, yeah,
Like
people just don't
this
know.
stuff I
Yeah.
was hearing, not even just, like, when I was asking people about
Give us
political
an example.
parties,
What was,
like
like, a big one that we can look forward to when
like,
we see the full thing?
something as simple as when I was asking about political parties, and the person was like, "Is that the red and the blue?
Oh, okay. Like
Is
the
that the red and the
colors.
blue?" Like,
Okay.
is that meaning, like, is Biden blue? Like, that's how
Oh, they
they were.
didn't know which one. Well,
Mm,
that was common. I think right after the election. And again, if you're a listener and you're saying to yourself, I don't know the answers,
yeah,
understand you're not alone. Like people, there's so much information. A lot of us don't know what's what anymore. So,
yeah,
after the election, it was one of the most Googled things like, is Biden a Democrat? Or people
interesting,
just really didn't know, but we're immersed in it. So when you're
interesting.
in the world, you don't realize how much people don't know.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
just conspiracy also,
Hmm.
and I think some of that is from TikTok, and, to be honest, like, I need to get more TikTok hip. I realize that there are really
Sure.
solid people on
Sure.
TikTok who are presenting the news or
Hmm.
presenting opinion, but there's a lot of misinformation about
There's
out there, and to me, that's where, like, I don't have the answers, but
mm,
we do need to figure that out, and especially with, like, these younger kids whose lives are on the phones and
yes,
on
yes, and
TikTok,
on YouTube and
and
all those
that's, like, the
platforms.
gospel. That is the
Mhm.
Bible. We need to teach parents media literacy to challenge the kids on like, okay, but where did you get that? What's your
That's right.
source? Did you counter it with somewhere else? Did you look around? Like, how are you taking that as fact? I just think we all need, and I'm talking to myself too. Like, we just can't
Yeah,
be lazy when
we
we're
can't be
reading or
lazy.
watching. We have like, we look at what we're fed in our Instagram feed. It's like it's an echo chamber.
It
It
is.
just is
Well,
like
the
all.
algorithm gives us more of what we wanna see, but I think we've gotten to the point where we're not arguing about how we should mow the grass anymore, which is, I think, what politics used to feel like. The grass needs mowed, right? We all agree,
Yeah.
we also all agree that it's green. We all agree
Do
that it's
we? Do we
grass.
all agree that
We
it's
used
green?
to.
I don't think we
I
agree
think
that.
back in the day, it
Yeah.
used to be like we're all
Yes.
kind of like, "Hey, it's green and it's grass and it needs mowed."
Yes,
Now it's
that's
like
changed.
it's changed. Now it feels like, well, okay, before we talk about whether or not it needs mowed, as it continues to grow higher, suffocate us all, cause problems, but is grass even green?
'Cause I think the grass is blue.
And also like, what is the point of grass?
Do we need
And who
grass?
put grass there? You,
I don't trust the person who
I
put the
don't
grass there.
like, we need to find the person who put the grass there before we even talk. And meanwhile, we're all suffocating in this overgrown grass,
Yes.
and it's like
Yeah.
that shift is the part where I think one thing that I think I love about both of us being movement partners and
Yes.
builders is that, you know, we're saying, look, y'all, let's not argue about whether grass exists because meanwhile, we need to mow it, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
can we just, even if you want to mow it your way, you mow it your way on Tuesday, I'll mow it my way on Wednesday,
Yes.
but let's just do what we have to do. So if you're not familiar with builders, I'll also put the link to that
Mhm.
below, and we'll probably tag and share this, clip it for you
Yeah.
guys so you guys can learn more about them. It's a great organization that is nonpartisan,
Yes.
that is simply just saying, like, how can we sit down and have the conversation about the actual issue
Yes.
because we likely agree that the grass needs mowed.
How
So
can we open our aperture of life and
that's
have
right.
curiosity and compassion?
That's
And
right.
even if you're talking to someone who is absolutely convinced the
Mm.
grass is blue,
That's right.
sir, why do you just help me understand? Why do you
Help
think
me
it's blue?
understand.
What
Mhm.
did you learn in your life that led you to truly believe that the grass is blue? I want
That's
to
right.
understand that.
And if understanding that makes you feel safe and comfortable and that can help us get it mowed, let's do that because
Yes.
we just need short grass.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I hope everyone hits at that because that's also the
Ah.
point of what we're doing here today is, a lot of people don't know a journalist,
Yeah.
and I got to tell you, like, it's such a privilege and an honor to have you here because if you're only going to know and hear from one journalist, like, Brooke is the one.
Mm,
She's great.
thank
She's
you.
real and I'm just so thankful
Thank
and I
you.
have to ask, in this next chapter of you sort of coming to us in the realest way with your whole voice. I mean, you're saying stuff with your whole chest, but also take us through the messy middle, believe it or not.
Yes.
You have a big, huge career behind you, but it feels like we're almost in the middle of this new
Yes.
chapter thing. Like
Yes.
you're, getting new haircuts that happened the other day. It looks good, y'all. The color's right. Like I'm just telling you, if you aren't watching this on YouTube, like do it because you have to catch all of this goodness
Still
she's
have my
giving us.
blowout. I'm
That's
normally
what I'm
like
saying.
natural curl, and
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
even
saying.
recognize myself
Right.
today.
I was like, catch all of
Oh
this.
my
Okay. No
gosh.
newscaster hair here. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you have this engagement to a partner you've been with for a while and
Yeah.
who's seen you through a lot of this,
Yes.
this recovery. Like you are coming to us in this real raw place.
Yes.
What responsibility do you feel like you have now in this season that's so it's different from before?
It's
Because
totally different.
you don't owe it to the big wigs. You're not this big fancy. It's just you. Like you don't have to give us any of this.
That's right.
Why are you doing it?
Damn, you're good.
Oh, thank
You
you.
are
Brooke
really
Baldwin said I'm
you
good online. Y'all, someone tell Oprah. Someone call Jeff. Tell Jeff, okay? And just be like, Brooke said I was good.
Ah,
It's what I don't want a job at CNN.
wow, wow, wow.
But thank you, Jeff.
I really appreciate the question. Why do I do it? I feel responsible. I feel a responsibility first and foremost, I think, just to myself and then to anyone else who wants to pay attention. And my biggest thing is like, I'm not like, yes, I feel like I'm a leader, but I am walking the walk with y'all. I
Mm.
am no longer the person with all the fancy clothes and the hair and makeup and the red bottom shoes, I don't they're like collecting dust somewhere in my closet if I haven't given them away to charity. And who I am now is just, as I say in the end of my TED Talk, just Brooke. I'm not CNN's Brooke Baldwin, I'm just
Mhm.
Brooke. And I've been exploring who that is. And I think that I don't know, my spidey sense is there's a lot of other people out there just like me who are in their 40s, maybe in the 50s, 60s. I hear from women in their 70s who are like, holy shit. I have had this whole version of my life. I have had this family. A lot of people have raised kids or had this career, and like they just either feel stuck or they have had the brick to the forehead and they're lost, or the pandemic did something to make their interior worlds topsy-turvy, and what they thought they wanted is no longer their dream and their lives, and so I just hope to, by doing, by living, by being by example and opening my whole world up and sharing me in a way that I have never done in my life. I mean, I write about everything from my relationship, my move across the country, my moving right in with a 16-year-old teenage girl in Los Angeles, not for the faint of heart, and our journey to sex and pleasure and that journey that I've been on and wanting to know my body more in this newer unraveling space that I'm in. I go there on everything. If I don't make myself a little bit uncomfortable and a little squirmy when I'm writing these Substacks, I'm not doing the reader a service. And I just like love every week hearing from people who learn a little something, and maybe I'll learn a little something from them, you know? And I don't know what this is going to amount to, but this is when my faith comes in. It's like I feel called to share, and whatever this is and whatever this becomes is going to be the thing on my epitaph. That's
Oh,
it.
that's it.
That's
That's
it.
it. And I thank you for that. I thank you because I never thought the person that spend my after school snack time with would be sitting across from me and accessible every single week, showing me what I need to get through the season I'm in, and
Yeah.
giving all of us, what we need to get through this world that we're in.
Yeah.
You've always done that for us, but I appreciate and really honor and see you in being so vulnerable yet again, and doing it out loud.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, and everyone, again, links are below, all the details. When I say, "If you have 1 click today, give it to Brooke. Please go
Mm,
subscribe, follow."
thank
It will pour into you, and share her. Like, tell people, we really have to support when people shift and step more into their own,
mm.
you know? The Brooke that we know and love before, it was still real deal,
Yeah, 100%.
If anything, that's part of why she is here right
That's right.
now
That's
because she
right.
is the real deal.
That's
So I
right.
just want you to know, like, this is it only getting better, and we also wanna be the ones who are like, I followed you before you got fancy," like, I'm an OG, so definitely, just thank you so much for being here and taking out the time, and if there was one truth
Mm,
that you wish everyone could take away, right,
mm.
from this conversation, that, we said in the beginning, this sort of, this perspective around using their voice, but just something you could zap into everyone's brain right now that'll help them understand you better and create a world that's better and safer for you. Maybe the
Mm.
thing you would tell Jeff that if you could get him to believe it might have changed everything. What is the truth about your lived experience that you would want them to
You
know?
know, I'm not thinking about Jeff really anymore. I'm
Bloop.
thinking about, and this may be surprising coming from like a journalist or a TV news person, but honestly, like it's about my spirituality. It's about, I have been on my knees in these last few years multiple times. I have been weeping. I have been begging, whatever you believe, if you believe God, source, spirit, the universe, what have you, to just like show me how to heal, light my path, make it obvious, show me who to talk to, what conversations I should be having, and just making it obvious where I need to go to lead, to share, to shine my light. And not all of it is, like I try not to have my Instagram be like wax on, wax off, like perfect looking. And I just there's a lot of tears, there's a lot of fear still. Am I making the right choices? I'm human. This is Earth School, and I'm oh so human. But I would say that, like, being in faith and trusting that the way will appear.
Ah, Brooke Baldwin, you are shining your light, and we see you. So thank you so much for being here vulnerably and openly, and like you are everywhere else, honestly, and thank you for this. This is such a blessing to me and to all of us. So thank you for being
You
here.
spot it, you got it, as my teacher says.
I
So
love that. Thank you for
thank
being
you.
here.